this nonsense that we saw from Kobbie Mainoo's brother after or during the game against Bournemouth at Old Trafford. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. I've alluded to it over the past 2 podcasts I recorded on Tuesday as well. And I just had to do an episode here where I was talking about this. And I feel like it already aligns as well with something else that I'm talking about with regards to the academy players and how they have reacted to Ruben Amorim's comments that he made, even though I don't agree with what he said in the press conference as well. So I talk about culture. I talk about how important it is to correct cultural course and make sure that the football club comes first. And look, that old cliche of no player is bigger than the club, I think it should always stand. It should always stand. And no matter how bad United are, that should always stand. You know? What we got on Monday night was a member of Kobbie's family purposely, it has to be purposely, coming out. Well, he put the shirt on, of course it's purposely, but going out there wearing a t-shirt, going and parading yourself with a smirk on your face with free Kobbie Mainoo, full stop, written on the t-shirt, while there's stories going around about how dissatisfied Mainoo is with the manager, with his playing time, with his part in this United team. We know he wants to leave on loan to play football, to go and get into the England World Cup squad if he possibly can. We know that's the case. And now Kobbie Mainoo, the irony of it is he came on the night, played 30 minutes or so, and was really good. I said on the podcast yesterday that I thought that was probably his most impactful performance on the ball that I've seen him have for a little while, especially coming off the bench while all this has been going on. As good as anything I've seen from him this season, I think. There's obviously some flaws for the midfield, but I think that's not particularly on Kobbie Mainoo. I think that's just a midfield issue that lots of people have. Casemiro is generally good at tidying up space behind him, protecting the space behind him. Bruno Fernandes, we know, struggles with that. Mamadou Ugarte is just pretty much out of the picture at the moment. There's speculation that he could go to Turkey in January or in 2026 at some point. So I'm not going to look at Kobbie for that specific reason and think that this goal was particularly his fault, because I think all of the midfield in general is not very good at stopping attacks like that and stopping transitions. That could be tactical, that could be personnel thing. But he played really well on the ball. I think he had a good influence on the game. He helped it travel forward. He was influential. We saw some really good flashes of skill from him and passing as well. And you go and put in that kind of statement performance that you need to make. Amorim has said numerous times, and he's asked about Mainoo in every single press conference, no doubt on Friday as well, or Thursday, or whenever the press conference is, he will be asked about Kobbie Mainoo again, because he's obviously going to be in the headlines now because of this stupid thing his brother did. There's obviously going to be a conversation again. All he has said, Ruben Amorim, over and over again, yes, he's been pressed and said a bit more, but he's maintained the line that I just go by what I see in training and what I see on the pitch. That is how to win me over. Casemiro is the example from this time last year. He was out of the picture, thought he would leave the club. People wanted him gone. The football had left him. Leave the football before the football leaves you. That was impossible at one point, according to Jamie Carragher. And Casemiro came back and doubled down, worked really hard, and got back into the team. And now he is as important as pretty much... he's one of the first names on the team sheet, And now Mainoo is having to challenge both Casemiro, who is one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced player in the team, and the captain of the team, who creates so many opportunities and goals and assists and all this. Bruno is the chief creator. Casemiro is the experienced one with the defensive head. I don't really have many defensive heads or players who can occupy the right positions and anticipate defensive transitions like Casemiro. Nobody in the team is as good as he is in that sense. Plus what Casemiro adds in the box as well, scores a lot of goals. Kobbie's in a difficult situation because he has to overcome two of the most experienced players in the team to get his opportunity. Ruben Amorim has always said, go and impress me on the training pits, impress me in matches, and I will pick you. That's kind of what has been his entire outlook on this situation. As much as I would like to see and would have liked to see Kobbie Mainoo get in more minutes than he has been afforded over the course of the season, it's not been the case. And I understand Mainoo's frustration. He might want to go, and I, God, do hope it is temporary. But things like this, then, after the performance that he put in the other night, as impactful as it was, to then have his brother in the stands wearing that t-shirt, making that statement. So he must have taken his coat. I wasn't there, obviously. He must have taken his coat off because it was a cold night, must have gone out there, gone down to the very front row, paraded, like leant on the advertising boards or the backside of the advertising boards or the boardings. Like there's loads of different, boardings before you get to the pitch. You know what I mean? Standing there, leaning with a smirk on his face, with a t-shirt that says "Free Kobbie Mainoo" on it, while all this is going on. It does not help Kobbie Mainoo at all. Like, everybody, or a large chunk of the fan base, has been on Kobbie Mainoo's side, wanting him to get more minutes. There's been leaks in the past about numbers that his camp have wanted on contracts, and he still hasn't signed that new contract. He's still on the contract that he signed around the time that he broke into the first team. He's not paid to the level of the status that he is in this first team. He's underpaid in relation to that. But I think there's been distance between the club on what Mainoo has wanted Mainoo's camp, let's say Kobbie Mainoo's camp, has wanted in numbers terms, and what the club are willing to give him for his squad status. Now, that's kind of led to an impasse. And Mainoo isn't going to commit either unless he's being shown that he's getting the right pathway to the first team. And Ruben Amorim isn't really holding up his end of the bargain on that either in many people's eyes. But to go and put in a performance like that, which was good the other night, and then have at the same time your brother or half-brother doing what he did, looking like, look, guys, it's an idiotic move. Why? Why are you doing that? Understand that you want to, is it to get attention? Probably it is. But look, I think I haven't seen something regarding United in so long more universally condemned by United fans. If there was any kind of silver lining to come out of this situation, it felt like for the first time the other day when this actually happened, that everybody looked at it and thought, you are a moron. What are you doing? It had to be intentional on his part. It had to be intentional. If you're taking off a coat or whatever on a cold night and then go in and showing that shirt to make a statement on behalf of your family member in order to kind of bring attention to yourself or bring attention to the actual situation in itself to kind of swing the momentum, or do you think that that's going to swing the momentum in the players' favor? I don't think so. Now Mainoo's just put in a really good performance, had that to stand on and say, hey, Ruben, that's what I can do. Give me more minutes. And now you've got that being taken away from by some idiotic act that his brother did in the stands on the same night. It's absolutely stupid. I hope to God that he acted alone. I think my hope and what I think is that he did. We haven't really had any kind of sustained, like, actual follow-ups on this, I don't think. But there have been some suggestions that I've seen and read that, like, a lot of Kobbie's camp was pretty miffed with him on this, and I do hope that's the case. I really do hope that's the case, because Kobbie Mainoo, for all of the, like, difficulty that he's had under Ruben Amorim of finding his place in this team, I think he has acted, for the most part, 99% of the time, exemplary. He's been exemplary. The only thing that I thought of, like, from the last week or so, and I'll get into, like, social media activity in a little bit as well. I think there was something that came out last weekish when Ruben Amorim laughed in the press conference when he was asked another question about Kobbie Mainoo. And I think Sport Bible put the stills out there as a swipeable. And I think what I had seen at the time, or I don't know whether this was fabricated or not, but it looked like Kobbie had liked the post. And again, that is not something that I think players should be doing and going up against their manager, even though at the time I said that I didn't think that Ruben laughing in that situation was the correct thing to do. I think watching it back, Having watched a couple of times, I think he was laughing personally, and like you don't want to really go. I don't want to go and defend him specifically for things that I'm imagining in a sense, but it did look like, or you can tell when Ruben Amorim is being asked so many questions about the same thing and the same player and over again. He does get frustrated and he does get a little bit irritated, and I think it was a laughter of like frustration in a sense, or like how many times going to be asked the same question, it's ridiculous, this kind of thing. That's what I anticipated the laugh to be like, but it's easy to see how you can construe it as just putting this young player down, and there's more examples which I'll talk about in a second of Ruben Amorim really not using the right words with other young players as well, which I don't defend. I don't think that what he has said in those situations about those players is the right thing to do. I just don't think so. Maybe you could put Mainoo's laugh in, or the laugh on Mainoo in that boat as well. But just to round off on this T-shirt situation, T-shirt gate, free Kobbie Mainoo statement that his brother has made, I don't see what it achieves outside of one individual getting himself talked about, himself the center of attention, when his brother was out there on the pitch absolutely doing the things that he should have been doing. And he has been doing but better than recently, I think. He was making a statement to say, hey, Ruben, play me. For me, that's how I looked at it and how I thought about it. And at the same time, this action undercuts all that good momentum that Kobbie had built for himself on that night, I think. We'll see what happens. Maybe Mainoo does get drafted in now, and with the rumors of formation changes and the differences in formation the other day, maybe we do see Kobbie Mainoo playing in there with Bruno and Casemiro moving forward when Casemiro's not suspended, obviously. We'll see what happens this weekend against Villa as well. We all want Mainoo to play. I'm sure that we do. Most of us want Mainoo to play. I would like to see it still. I want him to have a long-term future at United. And just to round off on this as well, it's ironic, really, that of all the players that I'm talking about in that midfield area and casting doubt on their futures, in terms of long-term futures, I still think, even to this point, that Kobbie Mainoo still has the best chance of being at Manchester United out of this midfield quartet going into next season. I still think that's the case, really. I make it unlikely Casemiro stays. It looks like mine's been made up on Ugarte, and they'll try and find some money for him. Bruno and his latest interview and all the comments that he's made again, I think that's going to happen at some point. I always thought the succession plan was that Kobbie Mainoo steps into Bruno Fernandes's shoes when Bruno Fernandes leaves. I said it at the start of the season, I could see that happening in 2026. Maybe we still see it. I don't know. But it's just brought unnecessary crap attention to a situation. And I do hope that this guy acted alone. I really hope that this wasn't constructed by his camp or something like that to go and make more noise, because we all know Kobbie wants to play football. I'm sure he would love to do that at Old Trafford. That's what I think he wants as well. He just wants to be given a chance in the team. This is just not the right way to go about it. And what this situation has done, again, in conjunction with everything else I'm going to talk about in a second, is just give you that reminder that all of this cultural correction, it's not sorted out yet. There's a long way to go. The fact that people or family members, we had all of this with Garnacho's brother last year, and through the last few years where lineups were getting leaked and all of this nonsense, and now Garnacho's gone and scored 2 goals against Cardiff, and there's accounts saying, oh, well, United shouldn't really have sold him, should they? I'm happy with the way that this has turned out. I wish Garnacho the best. I really do. But the noise that was created through his camp, I think, because the noise has stopped since he left, the noise didn't help anyone. The leaks didn't help anyone. And we still have a Manchester United at the moment that has issues for me with authority and people thinking that they are bigger than the manager. That is a problem that I think needs to be resolved, right? And I said this about Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho. I remember speaking about this with Rob 2.5 years ago or whatever it was, when Jadon Sancho put out that statement. My first thought was, what are you doing? People weren't hot on Erik ten Hag at the time, and rightfully so. But to put out a public statement defying your manager and having like a lot of people just supported Jadon Sancho and supported Jadon Sancho. You can look at him now; he's doing well with Villa, but he's not really contributing all that much, is he? He's not starting every week or whatever. But that division, that lack of respect for your boss and putting things out publicly against them is not an indicator of a healthy football club. It's not an indicator that all things are well, because that's not the Manchester United that I grew up recognizing. I don't think in any workplace, really, does this make any sense? You think about this, in any workplace, do you think that, and I'm looking back at the Garnacho situation and the Sancho situations now as well, and I'm thinking, is there any situation where you can go on social media and defy your boss? Not generally how the world works, is it? And not have any consequence about it. That's not really how the world works, right? And look, I defended Erik ten Hag for a lot of the time because he always talked about structure and discipline. And this is the reason why I go so hard on like coming from it from that point of view, because I think culture and discipline is a massive problem at Manchester United and has been ever since the whole situation disintegrated. I don't always agree with what these managers say, right? I think sometimes they're often quite wrong. And I'll talk about the stuff that Ruben Amorim said in a second now about the young players as well. I don't think what he said was right. But at the same time, he's still your boss. I'm sure there are plenty of us that have had run-ins with our bosses in workplaces, not even in football. Do you go out there and say stuff on social media about it? You probably don't, because it's ill-advised and you don't. What does it achieve apart from everything blowing back on you? United have had problems with discipline and have worked bottom up for such a long time, I think. And that's why I always say, and I know there's people out there who agree with this, culture before tactics. Everyone's got to fall into line. It's a principle of life, and success happens in every walk of life and every profession, apart from maybe a few. But just generally, to work together as a team, you have a leader, you go by what the leader says. And you don't defy what the leader says in a public setting. And what Amorim said in this press conference before the Bournemouth game, which was recorded last Friday, came out Monday, he was asked about the academy and Mainoo and why players weren't playing games. And he said again, of course, he's not playing so many games, but Kobbie has had opportunities, especially last year. Everyone has. Then he went on to say, Harry Amass is now struggling in the Championship. Chido Obi is not always a starter in the under-21s. All these guys played when a lot of people were saying sack the manager, so you can see that I'm not worried. That quote there, and he did mentioning names of teenagers and saying Amass is now struggling in the Championship, even though I do, and I have outlined on the pod over the last few days, that I think he was talking about Sheffield Wednesday because they won one game all season. I haven't checked their result from the other night. Maybe they won 2 now, but they are not doing well. They're on minus points. I have to go and check this out myself now because I'm thinking about, they lost 3-0 at home to Derby on Monday night in the Championship as well. And Sheffield Wednesday, to say this again, are 24th in the Championship, have had 18 points deducted, and they are massively behind, and they are not getting out of this situation. Sheffield Wednesday are struggling. What Ruben said is that Amass is now struggling in the Championship. It's been tried to be cleared up by the club itself and like fed through lines to journalists and this kind of thing. But that wasn't the story, because the line is Amass is now struggling in the Championship. I don't think he actually meant that. I don't think he would have buried a player of that age on purpose to protect his own position, like people are saying that he's done. I just think he's an honest guy, and that's how he thinks about situations. That's not to say that I don't think he was wrong, because he was wrong to name drop players of that age, and wrong to name drop players who aren't in his first team anymore and push them under the bus or whatever. That was wrong. But what's also wrong is Harry Amass reacting to what he said by putting out a picture of him with a Player of the Month award on his story to say, hey guys, look, I'm doing really well. Actually, despite what the manager said, I'm doing really well. And then Chido puts out an Instagram story as well of him celebrating a goal. Hey, I'm doing actually quite well. I think I'm doing all right. Screw you, manager. As much as they might feel like that, and they might be justified to feel like that, it does not do anybody any good. And especially those guys, it does not do any good for them at all to react publicly to something that their manager has said, even if I don't agree with what he said. That is not culturally acceptable at a successful football club. We're in an era of player FC and people sticking up for play. Yeah, you say your line, man. You defend yourself. Do you want the player to succeed or do you want the club to succeed? Always think of the football club. I've looked at the last few Man United managers and they have recognized that there's a cultural issue and a issue of lots of issues, like mentality issues at the football club. I think that's a big reason why players don't fall into line all the time. You've had players losing trust and faith in the manager, and players have down tools in the past. I don't think that's the case at all under Ruben Amorim now, like it's been under other managers. So I don't think he's lost everyone or lost many people at all. But this kind of thing does not help anyone. And it's a respect thing, really. You know, you have to respect your boss. He gave them chances last year, you know, he did give them chances. And I think, I don't think anybody will disagree now that Amass being on loan in the Championship and Chido being back in the under 21s, they're the right moves. You know, I don't think Chido was ready either. But the fact that, like, I don't know, it's a generational thing or whatever, to have the belief that you putting that out there and making an Instagram statement or story is indirect as well, but it's what you infer from it, right? It doesn't help your case. Do you think that nonsense kind of flies under managers who have control of everything? I don't think so. I put out yesterday that I don't think this would fly under Sir Alex Ferguson nowadays. People quote tweeted it and said, he softened after a while. And he did. But at the same time, he recognized, like with Cristiano Ronaldo, he was the best player in the world. With Eric Cantona, he was a maverick that could do what he wanted. And Alex Ferguson felt at the time that that was the best thing to do, to just give Eric license, to have him have rules that he could live differently to in comparison to the others, because that was how to get the best out of him. That is not Manchester United of the modern day for me. People have to fall into line because the club needs discipline. The club doesn't have it. And as much as they worked, I think they've done a really good job, actually, of weeding out the players with the wrong mentalities, which Bruno Fernandes also referenced in his interview, by the way, yesterday, that he feels like he tries really hard and there's other players there who are just happy to take a paycheck and sit there, wait for a move for 25, 30 million euros or whatever, and they can go and play somewhere else, while he doesn't feel loved because he gives his all every day. I agree with that. If your captain recognizes that that is a thing in the football club that is a problem, and he feels hard done by because of it, it probably exists. Not all is well. I think what the people in charge of the club, standard setting and all that kind of stuff, I think they've done a good-ish job of it so far. I think we're moving in the right direction, but it still exists. And rules need to be set and rules need to be established and kept as well. Because as much as I think Harry Amass and Chido are really, really promising players, and I'd like to see them have a path to the first team, if that attitude's not going to get you far at Manchester United, maybe it will work and fly somewhere else, but it's not advisable. And what Kobbie's brother, if he feels like he can go out there and make a statement against the manager, whether it was known about or not, again, that's another indicator, really. You probably can't stop that happening, but the fact that people feel as though they can do that indicates that there's a problem that needs to be fixed still. And it's frustrating as hell, because you can talk about tactics all you want, right? You can talk about all of these like different systems and formations. If the players aren't giving their all in every single game, every single second, which I think they are this season, but if there's a risk of that overhang and that thing coming back and that bad attitude coming back in, it can set back in really quick, and it can undo not only the manager that we have in charge now, but managers that will come after Ruben Amorim as well. Again, I just think, and it's a principle really that I have, is you probably shouldn't disrespect the manager. Probably. You probably shouldn't, especially if you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You shouldn't do it. Even though what the manager said in itself was the wrong thing. There's a hierarchy and it needs to be respected. Anyway, let me know your thoughts because I've gone on for a little while there. I just wanted to, you can tell I get a little bit more impassioned about nonsense like this that I've seen come out over the last few days. It doesn't suggest to me that everything is fixed at United yet, but we are on a path to, I think United will be in a couple of years' time in a much better place. Personally, I think that they will. I think the things that have been done at the club so far are on the right track. I think you need to keep on that path, and people who disrespect that path for their own personal gain have to be weeded out, I think. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I hope that I've got every point across that I wanted to there. Again, I'm not saying that T-shirt, Kobbie knew about it. I don't know if he did. I hope he didn't. I don't think he did. I hope that's dealt with internally and pushed under the carpet, because that's not the best way to go about getting minutes. And all of the other stuff I've talked about there, I think I've pretty much said what I wanted to say. But let me know what you think about anything I said there. Let me know what you want me to talk about on future episodes of the pod as well. I'll probably be back looking ahead to the Aston Villa game. Ruben Amorim will no doubt be talking about some of the stuff I've talked about on this episode of the pod today in that press conference as well. But subscribe to the pod if you've not done so already. Please like the video, subscribe, 5-star reviews, comments, all welcomed. Thank you again for your Spotify wraps and all of this appreciation that you've shared with me over the past few weeks or so for 2025. Keep them coming as well. If you have got that and you haven't shared it yet, please share it with me. I would really, really appreciate it. Follow me on social at @_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram and TikTok as well. And until next time, everyone, I'll see you soon for another episode of TPL.